Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Marcus Jones with Entertainment Weekly. It's critical our audience know that a SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA performers who are in urgent need as this pandemic continues. Since March of 2020, the foundation has given nearly $6 million in aid to over 6,300 performers and families facing extreme hardship. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and you need help, please ask. And if you are able to help support our community in this crucial effort, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Lamorne Morris. How's it going?
It's going good.
Tough question.
Tough question.
Actually, this year.
Oh my God. This year has been a bit of a roller coaster, I think, for everybody, for obvious reasons. Myself, it's been, up and down. It's, obviously the pandemic has really put a damper on things. What's happening in our society as far as injustice is, that's something that will put a damper on you. But when I say ups and downs, like those are some of the downs. But then on the opposite side of that, with injustice, it's a great thing to see people coming together for a common goal, obviously. Yeah. Especially things that weren't talked about in life. That was kind of taboo and swept under the rug. It's kind of it's a bright thing to see people having those discussions. And then work has been pretty cool throughout it all too. I was a little scared at first, to be honest with you. I was like, what's going to happen with like our business, our industry? Mm-hmm. But, people rallied and really figured it out. I've been shooting on a few things recently, which is great. My show got picked up for a second season.
I know.
Great. Yeah. So very blessed and very happy. So, whenever I get in one of those little low moments or low moods, I go, damn it, boy, you got a job. You got a job.
I know.
Shut up and work. So
yeah, I did want to congratulate you on the season 2 pickup of Woke, because it does kind of hit all those intersecting things. You do have the gift of being on a show that is able to talk about and really dissect those lows. Right. But the first thing is, when did you just find out about the pickup?
Like 2 days ago. I want to say about a couple. I think when Deadline released their, their release was the same day I found out. I guess that's the political answer. I'll be real with you. I knew before. maybe like a few days prior to it. I got one of those like fire emojis and thumbs up emojis from one of the producers, and I was like, what does this mean? And they just went, wait and see. So obviously that was kind of a tell that we were going to get picked up for another season. And honestly, I would have been a little disappointed, not a little disappointed, I've been very disappointed if we didn't get picked up for another season, but I would have been shocked if we didn't. Fans really took to it. They really took towards the show, and I'm very excited about that. Not even fans, of people in general are just talking about it, which is the point. That's something that we set out to do when having a show that talks about the things that the show speaks on. We thought, as long as the conversation is moving and people get activated to do something in their own particular communities, that maybe we're doing our job.
Yeah. I wanted to know, because the last time I had talked to you, I had only watched the first 4 episodes. The full season hadn't been out yet. What has that response been like, especially Woke season 1 coming out at the time it did, when we were having these conversations?
The response has been fantastic. And when I say that, it doesn't mean it's all positive. It's just people. Some people are outraged, which means we're doing our job. So, and again, it's carrying that conversation. So, it's been surprisingly warm, though. You know what I mean? Like across the board, people really have gravitated towards the messaging, and beyond that, just the characters on the show. They love the direction in which Mo Marable set us on, and they love the journey of all these characters. We got some funny people on the show. We also have some, just strong, like great pure actors like on this show.
Yeah.
So we have a collection of literally stand-up comedians and theater, Broadway folks and amazing voice actors, that are really bringing it on this show. And so I'm very excited to see what we could do second season.
Yeah, I love that. Even seeing your two love interests, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know her and I know her.
Yeah.
I love her on iZombie, love her on what is it? Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I think getting even further into it, when we had talked beforehand, you predicted that some people, like the finale in particular, or the back half of this season in particular, may have a bit of a polarizing experience. Yeah. Personally, I think that exchange between Keith and the cop is brilliant. But what kind of feedback did it elicit when it finally came out and people saw it?
It was a wide range. I could talk to some of the extremes. Yeah. Some people, that episode in particular, where my character is flicking beer on the police officer to prove a point. It's on a more extreme level, folks were angry about that. It's disrespectful to our law enforcement. It's all these things, you know what I mean? And I could understand why someone would say something. I understand why someone could possibly feel that way, maybe if they had only seen that clip, you know what I mean, or had heard about it. Mm. But if you watch the show in its entirety, it puts it into context, right? And then, because on the other hand, I have folks that will hit me up and say, "Oh, you should have did more. Oh man, who should have poured the beer on his head?" Like, it was a scene. I couldn't really do that, but no, you should have went for it, man. You should have just threw it in his face, and because some people said it wasn't enough. Some people said it was too much. It was too far. And I love that. I love the fact that we can have these conversations, because no one hates me for it, and no one hates the actors for it. No one hates the production for it. It causes a reaction out of people. And I feel like that's what TV should do. I think that's what film should do. I think, it should cause that type of reaction out of people, if that's what your goal was. And sometimes that might not even be your goal, and it causes a reaction, which is, I think, a great thing. I definitely think it's a great thing. Yeah.
Reading the scripts, did you and the cast kind of have those disparate reactions to some of the scenes that you guys were shooting? Yeah.
We, even internally, we would have these talks about that fine line that you have to walk, between comedy and, and darkness, I guess. If comedy is light, you want to be funny in certain moments, but then I'll give you an example. The scene in the pilot where I'm being tackled by the police, and then Blake Anderson's character, Gunther, comes running up and he's like, "Man, that's messed up what they did to us." Yeah. He's like, "You want some weed, man?" Like he plays it so real that he walked the line beautifully, right? Because a moment like that, you do have to take some steam off of it to really let the audience digest and process what just happened, but you can easily mess that up. You can come in too goofy, you can come in too hot, too silly, not silly enough. Like there's such a fine line, and Blake Anderson did such a dope job at doing it. And at one take, I was really in this mindset of someone who had been tackled by the police, or someone who had been wrongfully, agitated by police. And I tried to put myself in that mindset, right? And so you're there, and it helped a lot with obviously the audience, the background actors who were, pretending to be audience members of this, watching this assault go down. As I'm watching them while I'm on the ground, I really felt like I felt very heavy. I felt like, wow, is this going to be, is this what people feel like when they're in this position? There is a bit of embarrassment there too. A lot of times we talk about the pain and the anger that we have, but there's some embarrassment. It's just stress. It's cold, man. You're laying on the ground and people got their phones out and all in your face and doing all that. And I really felt something. And then as I get up, Blake comes running in and he says, he's like, it's messed up what they did to us, man. Like, one of the takes I remember just like checking out and laughing hysterically. And and then I got lost in the laugh that I couldn't stop laughing. And I don't know why. And I just thought maybe my body was tired from like being so like sad about what had happened. So it was this weird reaction that I had from one of those takes. And again, he still walked that line beautifully. It was just one of those takes that I just couldn't help but laugh. And I think in life, sometimes there are things that will happen to you that in order to keep from crying, you laugh. So maybe that's what was going on. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely a balance, walking that comedic line and not stirring the message in a negative way.
I mean, it's so real. And just to think about it, like, and I do want to sort of speak to bringing personal experience into it, but I think having seen that scene and talking to it about it now, it just makes me think about how I would often joke, living in LA, particularly in the neighborhood that I live in, like, oh, my biggest fear is that someone's going to think I'm stealing my own car. Yeah. And then, of course, that ended up happening because I had left sunglasses in a different car and my friend dropped me off. And as I was waiting for her to like sort of circle around and come back, a man right across on the sidewalk started filming me and was like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to steal this? And I was like, this is my car. It's 90 degrees outside. I don't want to sit inside of it. Like, I'm just waiting for my sunglasses to come. And so it's like weird.
Crap.
It's like, it sucked. It sucked so much in that moment, but Damn. It was also very funny for like the joke that I was saying to actually come true, and for it to be like a thing that we deal with, the thing that Keith deals with on the show. Like, there are the parallels. Like, so I guess, were you bringing, like, did you feel a lot of that personal experience, and is that your experience with these issues, that like it's not all direct seriousness? Sometimes there is a dark humor to it that the show kind of explores.
Well, yeah, two things I got from that. One, you're a thief, and two, shame on you. Yeah. But yeah, I'll give you a story of a time. I'm not sure if I've ever spoken to you about this particular story, but I was leaving Second City, do an improv show, and I'm dressed up, and a friend of mine came to check out the show, was also dressed up, 2 Black dudes. And at the time, my girlfriend, who we were walking with, was Jewish. And I remember walking down the side of the street, and police rolled up on us and, threw us on the car, frisked us, did the whole thing. Wasn't telling us why. They had their guns out, get on the car, all that whole thing, kicking our legs apart. Taking the stuff out of our pockets, throwing it on the hood of the car. Then they said there was an older cop teaching the younger cop how to properly frisk me. Like, he grabbed my front pocket, like, what is this? What is that? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, you got to get everything. And he's going in there, he's grabbing it. So demeaning at this point. And then they're asking me, whose car is, like, where are you going? I said, go in my car. Like, which car? Like, the one that you stopped me from getting in. This is my car. Right. They got us cuffed now. And they have my girlfriend up, just standing on the sidewalk. And they're like, ma'am, whose car is this? Ma'am, are you okay? They're asking her questions like that, as if we've stolen her or something, and we're holding her hostage while dressed in suits. And I just remember, as they took off, they said we fit the description of someone, a group of people breaking into cars. Right? Yeah. And as they drove off, I remember looking at my buddy, and just making a joke. I just said, I was like, see, walking around with you suspicious ass niggas, man. Yeah, damn. Like, like I said, I just because, what I mean? Because I didn't know how else to react. Like, I was very, like, later on that night, I was really pissed off. Like, I was just like in a weird zone for a couple days about it. So I had to kind of break up that. Otherwise, the car ride from home was going to be pissed off and angry. The other, like, there was a lot of different emotions I didn't feel like feeling at that time. So you have to, like I said earlier, you gotta, in order to keep from crying, you laugh. So I had to tell a joke. And it's also my like defense mechanism at times. It's my security blanket. Like if I'm ever uncomfortable, I'll just say a dumb joke or an odd joke or something like that to moonwalk my way out of a scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that like sort of the benefit of woke being a comedy, is that you get to sort of channel the absurdity that like doesn't necessarily come across in dramas that tackle these?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, again, there's that line you get to freely play with now because it is a comedy. And it's an absurd, it's a very absurd comedy, obviously with talking inanimate objects and cartoon characters and things like that. So it gives the audience that cushion that they need, maybe to let them know it's okay to laugh during times like these. It's okay to be silly in moments like this. It's, you know, if we were on a different show, if this were a different show tackling this subject matter on either spectrum, it could be a really, really dark drama, you know, tackling this, and you'd be so invested seriously and you'd be looking at the TV like this, and then a strong joke out of the left might throw you way off. It might even throw off the whole episode because you're like, wait, what? It just might not be the right tone for the show or some strange direction. Or if the show was like a super, super strong, slapsticky, multicam type of show, and you're tackling this subject matter and you hit it too dark, then it's like, what are we watching? You know what I mean? I wrote an episode called Par 5 of New Girl. And I remember it being an episode about race, but it was from another perspective. It was about what a police officer might feel, what a Black police officer might feel in moments like this, you know, and sometimes maybe they'll feel embarrassment, if ashamed of the badge, if they're like around certain people who are speaking out against police, maybe they don't want to say anything. I don't know. But, you know, in an episode like that was a line we had to walk as well. It's like trying to figure out, not just messaging, but trying to figure out, like, does this joke land? Does this joke are we taking the heat out of it too much? And I think they did a pretty good job of regulating me to a certain extent, because there was a lot of weird stuff I wanted to put in that episode. They were like, no, you can't do that. So it's always a fine line.
Yeah. And it's interesting with Winston, he's such a malleable character that you could sort of make those pitches.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Those are the dumbest stuff in the world. It's like, it's just really silly bits that I wanted to add in there, but also some on the opposite end of the spectrum, some just strong messaging that I wanted to put into that episode. But I think we did a good job of blending the two. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out was that season 1 was shot before, like, obviously before the pandemic, before these conversations really intensified again. I won't say before they happened, because they've been happening and they continue to happen. And thankfully those conversations are sort of being pushed to the forefront more this year. But now that, like, just in watching season 1, when it came out during this time, was it already sort of like ideas for season 2, like flooding in? Like, this year like a gateway open into going even deeper on a show like WoW?
Absolutely. You know, our first season, obviously we talked about police brutality, things like that, PTSD of having to deal with something like police brutality. However, with the pandemic, with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, all happening after we had filmed, it opened up the world again for a couple of things. What it did say to us was that this is something that will never go away. It's a part of life that we have to figure out a way to lessen it, you know, as opposed to them happening every single week. How do we limit this behavior? How do we get people on the same page? You know, and with the pandemic now, it's okay. How are poor communities dealing with it? You know, what's our current administration doing to help these people? Like, those are definitely that's definitely a subject matter that we would love to tackle on the show. And again, and not have it just be about police, because there's all kinds of injustices that happen in this world. There's all kinds of awareness that we can be aware of, so the pandemic is definitely something that has opened the floodgates of opportunity for writing. So I'm anxious to see what we come up with. Yeah.
And as the star of the show, what is your role in those conversations as far as figuring out what they want to do season 2?
Well, they run everything, by me, just to give me a heads up. But it's not like they're doing it out like they have to or anything like that. It's just we all want to be on the same page, maybe things I'm comfortable with as a performer, things that I'm not comfortable with. I think it's just a collaborative effort. Anytime you can collaborate with your cast during the writing process, it just makes the writing one easier, but also better. You don't have as many hiccups on set with things that maybe an actor didn't know were in the script before, or you're at the table read and all of a sudden you're reading this weird thing that you're not that comfortable doing or saying, or maybe and because of the subject matter of this show, maybe there are some certain things that I just don't believe or believe in. So even as a performer, I may not feel comfortable delivering that type of messaging, even though you're acting. Even though you're acting, if you are going to do something that is against maybe some sort of fabric that you have inside of you, you want to make sure that when the writers wrote it, that they really stand behind it. There's a point to it, and it's going to service the character the best possible way. And it's not just we're figuring you said some shit like this. And you're like, what? Like, I got to be the one to do it. Like, my face is out there. Like, people are going to think this is how I really feel. Like, what, like, are you standing behind this messaging, or are you just writing some stuff? Those are the conversations you need to have earlier in the, writing process. And I think that's probably beneficial for most actors. I think most actors would love to know what their character is going to go through, in a particular film or, season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You really hit on it just now, but I do want to get a little further into it, just for the audience. Do you, now having done Woke and especially having done New Girl, do you have any suggestions for actors on how they would approach offering that feedback or suggestions about their role?
It's always a lot of early on in my career, I used to, if I didn't like something, I would just express that, like, oh, I don't like this line. And the writer would look at you, the director would look at you like, so? There's not much you could do about it at that point. However, if there is something you're not comfortable with, offer a suggestion, like a backup plan. If you want to change something in the script, or if you don't like something in the script, change it, offer a few suggestions, and then pitch it. Say, hey, I don't think my character would do this. Instead, what if we did something like this? I think it's good because it could turn into X, Y, and Z, And then before you know it, you guys are collaborating. Before you know it, you're comfortable performing, and you don't have this little part of your body that's like doing something, but you're not fully committed to the bit, or you're not fully committed to the scene because you're kind of uncomfortable doing it. But, if you express that early on and you offer very valuable suggestions, I think you find you'll be met with a lot of openness about it.
Yeah. I mean, getting into it a little bit differently, talking about character quirks, Keith talks to markers and various other objects, inanimate objects throughout the series. And that is down a little bit towards the end, but then there's kind of a teaser or twist. Do you want to see more of that on this show season 2? Like, is that a part of the DNA now, or do you want to see Woke explore the heightened fantasy in new ways?
If I would love to. I love, like, that was a new thing for me, having conversations with green things that they'll then turn to something else, or sometimes having a conversation with nothing at all, and then they just add something there. That's fun for me. I like performing that way. And And I didn't know it before until I did it. And I was like, man, this is, I want to keep doing it. So I definitely want to explore moments like that, where maybe sometimes it could be OD and extreme in a particular episode, and then go back to, reality, ground things a little bit to give the audience a break, I guess, from my character's madness. But yeah, and if they could, if there's some other level of absurdity that they can explore, some sort of, I wouldn't even begin. I'm not even going to pretend like I would know what they would come up with, but
right.
That would be great. That would be great to see. It'd be great to do. It'd be great to play. I think it'd be fun for the audience for sure. Whenever you can, explore new types of filmmaking, I think that would be great. I shot something a long time ago with Francois Dejeunay. I think that's Dejeunay. It's French. Dejeunay. I think that's how you say his last name. But he's the DP for Woke.
I wouldn't know, but nice. Yes.
Yeah, he's the DP for Woke. But he was also the DP for another show that I had done called Valley of the Boom.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this guy is amazing. This guy, he built some sort of weird camera that was the camera was made from an old Russian spy aircraft.
Nice.
And it was one of those planes that would go down and like start taking photos and doing all that stuff. They turned it into made it a video camera. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know what they did to it. But when you shoot on, I think it's called the effigy or something like that. But when you shoot on it, it looks crazy. It's this weird texture that I haven't seen before. So if you go check out Valley of the Boom, if for all the people watching, if you can go check out Valley of the Boom and look at some of those shots that Francois set up. I would love to kind of play with more visual elements on Woke the next season and play around with those textures a little bit too.
Yeah. Is that a situation where like you're on set and you do it and you're like, well, I mean, I got that one done, and then you watch it back and it's like, oh shit, that's what we were doing?
Absolutely. When I did it, we sat down, I remember my day one of shooting the show, I'm on set and I remember them having me, like, you're talking to the regular camera here, because my character is a bit of the narrator in Valley of the Boom. And I was talking to one camera and he goes, but the light will shift. We'll do a practical light shift. And then you look over to this side. And then there's this weird freaking camera, this weird thing. You start talking to that and it's going to be moving a little bit. So when he's shooting, he's also doing a bit of like he's rattling the thing. He's rattling it, and and I know there was one point there was just there's the camera, and it was only the little, I forget what the technique is called when you just tap the lens a little bit. There's this weird effect that it causes.
Oh, I forget. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's this weird effect that it causes with that particular camera in general. That made it look great. I didn't know what I was doing until I saw it later. I thought, oh, that's dope. Kind of in focus, kind of out of focus at times. I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was Nat Geo?
Nat Geo, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I wonder if it's on Disney Plus. They got a lot of Nat Geo stuff on Disney Plus now.
Maybe.
Possibly, if people want to check it out. Another thing I wanted to ask while we're here is, how has this experience, specifically Woke, become unique for you? Like, craft-wise, what has the show added to your repertoire?
It gave me it's interesting. It gave me, when I went into the show, I was thinking, comedy. And this is right before I read the script. Your manager, agent calls you, tells you about this project. It's comedy. It's based on this guy's life. It's this, and this. And I'm coming out of New Girl, and coming out of some, like Game Night, a couple movies that really lean into the comedy. And and my character usually has all the punchlines. You know what I mean? Or he's got these weird quirks and this weird energy about him that will cause laughter, right? So when I was reading the script, I started realizing, like, oh, my character's absurd, yes, but he's the straight man. And so what it did for me was it let me know that, like, even though you come up studying, say, acting and theater and improv and sketch, and you're playing all types of comedy, right? You're playing all types of characters. So you know that's a muscle you can play, but it's a muscle that you haven't exercised in a while. So I remember being on set and having these scenes where, like, you know, you're just setting up jokes left and right, and you're watching your scene partners just like knocking out of the park. And there's something that's even more rewarding about that, right? Because I felt like a new act. I feel like a different actor than I was. Yeah. Than I was used to. And I think that's what I discovered about myself, is that that's definitely something I want to lean more into. I am working on a few projects that aren't comedic at all, like whatsoever. I had a friend of mine, a director named James Samuel. He's directing a film now called The Harder They Fall. He's my God, I'm so excited for that. Very excited. When I met him, I had this massive beard. Like, I let it grow out. I think I met him at the Straight Outta Compton premiere or something. And I didn't know him. He knew a friend of mine. He knew this actress that I worked with on Barbershop, Margot Bingham. And he comes up to me, she introduces us, and he goes, "Bro," he's like, "I know you from that show. You're like mad funny and all that." It's like, "But your beard, it's wicked, man." He's like, "You look menacing." He's like, "When I'm looking at you, if I didn't know you and I walked up, I would go, this brother was going to rob me." Like, I was just looking at him like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "No one ever told you that." He's like, "Your resting face is terrifying." I was like, "Thank you, man. Thank you. I don't know how to react to this." You know, and so every time he would check in on me, he would always ask me questions about, like, you know, character stuff. And he's like, "Next time you're working on something, I just want you to do me a favor." He's like, "Try a take where you're just absolutely menacing. Just try it out. See how it feels." It's like, and so now I'm working on some things that I play more of a menacing character, you know, and you find that it's very rewarding, because when you don't stretch your muscles, and I think I like to think that as actors we can do everything, right? Like, you know, I have friends that I feel like can play it all, and now I finally find myself in that position where I start to feel that way about myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's really fun playing these characters, and so doing the show, I got a chance to explore a lot of that, even the romantic side. You know, I never took myself too seriously to think that I was, you know, Michael B. Jordan or anything like that, you know. But when you put yourself in these moments, there's a million ways to play romance, you know, and I definitely enjoy doing that on the show as well. You know, taking my shirt off is not something I do often, but damn it, if they need me to do it, I'll do it. Y'all gonna get this. Oh my God, y'all gonna get all this.
Oh my God. The last thing I wanted to ask you is, we're obviously still in quarantine, lockdowns are happening again, but
I don't know about you, but I'm not. No,
but the conversation continues as far as what people are watching. The thing I wanted to ask is, does it feel like you've been promoting 2 shows at once during this time, because there has been such a drive back to watching New Girl?
Yeah, for sure. I actually feel like I've been promoting 3 shows, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Woke, New Girl, and Law and Order SVU. I talk about that show all the time now. I was late to the party. Like, I always knew the show existed, and, you know, you put on Law and Order, like sometimes the reruns would show on TV, and you watch. It's like Pringles. Like, once you pop, you can't stop. Like, once you watch one episode, and it goes right into the next episode, and next thing you know, you're on a 4-hour binge of Law and Order SVU. Now it's on Hulu. Oh my God. Like, I admittedly will go and watch Woke again, and then usually for homework purposes. But then right afterwards, I go, I want to lighten the mood a little bit. Watch some SVU. let me watch some Law and Order. So I definitely feel like we're promoting that. New Girl making its you know, reemergence, I guess, is it's awesome, man. It really is cool, because I think there's a generation of people, a whole new generation of people that have you know, latched onto it. something that's really, really important to me in my life. And it definitely sculpted 10 years of my life almost, you know what I mean? And I'm still affected by it. And the way it makes fans feel. I get so many messages about people, being sick, or people being, depressed, or things like that. And they say New Girl helped them in some sort of way. Whenever I try not to check my DMs too much, but when I do, I always find a message sometimes that says, "Hey, can you send my friend a video? She's not doing good," or "Can you do this?" And I gladly do it. I enjoy doing that. So, and that's because of New Girl. New Girl has opened up that avenue. Like, it's one thing to just be on a show, to tell some jokes and, have fun on set, but then when you leave, you realize that it's affecting people. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the power of acting and the meaningfulness of it is a great place to end this on.
Yeah.
Thank you again to Lamorne Morris. On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we want to thank you for joining us and for sharing your experience, process, and craft with your fellow performers.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me. And hopefully my Daniel Day-Lewis-like performance in Woke will spawn a generation of creators. Thank you.